Looks like we're live. Now, this is something I've always told people not to do, go live about anything prepared and just sit there and answer questions. But earlier on this week, I was on a live stream with Rob Balasabas, and Rob has his own YouTube channel. He also works for TubeBuddy, and he just told me to do it, to which I said no. And then he said, just do it. And then I thought, all right, I will. And we'll see what happens. So I've got nothing prepared. I'm just here to take your questions, any questions you may have about video. Just bear in mind, there will be a little bit of lag here. Sometimes it can be about 10-15 seconds. I've done my best to keep the quality high and to also try and reduce that. So I'm just sitting here, manning the chat box. Unfortunately, the email I tried to send to my entire email list to let them know this was on didn't send. So I imagine it's going to be a small group. But yeah, any questions you have about promoting, producing, writing, anything with video, I'm here to help. So I'm just going to sit back, maybe tell you a story and wait for the first question to come in. This could be a while. No, the main point of this is we're going to turn it into a blog series. We're trying to learn a little bit more about lives. I've been doing a lot of lives recently, but nothing like this. And in the past, I've always told people that they really need to actually promote what they're doing, so they're not just there sitting, chatting to a camera to a couple of people like I am now. So thanks if you have showed up. We have a question coming in, and this is from Incinerator Europe. What tips do you have for a small channel to get its first 100 subs? I've tried making a channel and I'm still on 27. That is a great question. So your first 100 subs are going to be the hardest ones. So the first thing you need to think about is it's taken 10 videos to get that. Well, that's not a problem. Don't worry, you're still learning. So the first 100 are the toughest. You need to stick to your niche to start off with, but also experiment and try and work out your own style, your own voice, and don't worry too much about growing, because your first 10, 20 videos, 30 videos are always going to be your worst videos. So that's one thing to take into mind. It is just an adventure, this, and really you just want to make mistakes, small mistakes that not a large amount of people can see. So improve your production, do your research, and then once you've decided that you're actually ready for the big stage, then start thinking about targeting search terms and trends within your niche. So for example, if you make baking videos, you don't want to just jump straight in and make a video called how to bake a cake, because there's going to be millions and millions of searches on that. You want to have a think about more niche cakes, maybe a Battenberg, or I can't think of another one. A Victoria Sponge is more of a mainstream cake, so that might be a little bit too tricky. But think about smaller topics off of the baking sector, for example, and go into YouTube and have a look at the amount of competition there is there for them, as well as the amount of views and interest. And you can use a free tool called TubeBuddy, which whenever you search for anything, you just type in the search term and it will show up and it will tell you how competitive it is and how interested people are in those topics. So that's the next thing to do, and then try and make a lot of search-based content. Now, if you're in the entertainment sector and you're purely trying to entertain people, it's slightly different. Now, you might be able to do entertainment based around search terms, but otherwise you've got to look at different kinds of promotion and maybe using social media and Reddit and other platforms to try and drive people back towards your content. Now, a lot of the people we do work with and who watch our channel are in the education sector. So think about those search terms. And I tend to find that I'm spending as much time now searching for keywords and things people are interested in as I am writing videos, as it's quite hard. But if you can find the right ones with little competition, then you'll get a lot of views coming in quickly. The next thing I think about is your trends, your search trends. So for example, a trend is a hot topic. It's basically news. So let's say you're a baking channel again, and there's some baking related news that goes viral and everyone's talking about Battenberg cakes, or a new kind of cake that's kind of changing the world. This is your chance to jump in before there's tons of content on it to produce something that a lot of people want to find, and then harness the power of the trend. We recently did it on a video about the guy who, YouTube channel called Dad How Do I, and his channel blew up. And making a video about that, the video picked up about 7,000 views and 150 new subscribers in a couple of weeks. So once you've established trends and you've started working with search terms, you can start to grow your channel. But of course, the content needs to be very high quality. So that's the first thing to examine. Is this good or better than everything else out there? Or is it just kind of not that good? Now, I'm not sure which channel you're talking about, so I don't want to say anything. If it's a business channel, You might want to think about selling less. So here's the next question. Increasing retention on talking head videos. Yeah, so these are tough because often people ramble on for ages or they don't get to the point and it's not particularly helpful. So the best thing you can do with a talking head video to start with, if you're a new channel, is keep them short and sweet. Maybe just aim for 60 seconds to 2 minutes. Now YouTube does prefer longer content, but it's very hard to make a longer video engaging. And the reason YouTube prefers longer content is because it wants that watch time. So if you make a long video and people aren't watching much of it, then it's not really doing you much help. You're much better off trying to build a small following of content that's really good and gets to the point in this sort of style to then sort of, get them subscribing to your channel. So when it comes to talking heads, entertainment, think about creative ways of opening, metaphors, stories, stats, things like that that relate to the topic. Then make sure the title itself is also kind of intriguing. So you can let them know what the video is about, but you also kind of want a hook in there to try and make them go, oh, that sounds interesting, I'll watch that. And then just get to the point and try and get as much high quality information there as possible. We have a little system for it, which is informative, engaging, and actionable. And if you get all of those three things into a talking head video, you'll tend to find that people will watch it for a while. If you can try and get two in, that's fine. One, you might be pushing it. So informative, loads of information, entertaining, if you try and make it light-hearted, make people laugh, make people smile, and actionable is actually giving them something to go away and do. So they've taken on your information and they go and practice it, and if they do that and they get a result, or you better them off somehow, you should find that they come back for more. I hope that answers your question. So, have we got anyone else sitting in here right now who isn't my dad? Thanks for those questions, Chris from Incinerator. I hope they answered them okay. I'll just sit here peacefully and wait for the next one to fire out. That's 7 minutes gone. It's going to be a long half an hour. So if you've just joined us, you're basically jumping in at a bit where there's no questions for me to answer. And this seeing as this is a Q&A that was totally unplanned and was just off the spare moment. If you have any questions, it would be great to throw me the lifeboat ring and save me right now, because otherwise I'm just sitting here in a sweaty room. We're going for business in a boring niche like law or accountancy. If you're in a boring niche like law or accountancy, then you're actually in luck. Not that, because generally what you find is accountancy and law aren't actually that boring. It's just the way that it's delivered is. So in niches that are considered a little dry, it's your opportunity to shine through by creating content that's more personal, more entertaining, just less sort of dull. It tries to be different. Now, there's a risk for law companies and there's risks for accountancy firms because they want to be seen as professional. So you need to find this nice healthy mix of seeming, human and approachable and fun, but also being professional at the same time. Now, where you can do that is with stories in your content, maybe light-hearted stories that help prove a point, or metaphors that you can use as intros in your videos. But we've worked with people who sell bins, we've worked with people who sell toilet roll, and we've managed to make videos that actually get repeat views because they've not looked at it as a boring topic. They've looked at it as an opportunity to think outside the box and differentiate, but there does come with a lot of risks in that. Have you gone long without a haircut? My haircut was booked in for the day lockdown got hit. I hadn't had one since January, so my last haircut was nearly 7 months ago. I've got one booked in soon, so thanks for that, Dave. Do you miss Dave? No. Thanks. I hope that was helpful. There's quite a lot of views on the channel. Check out one on the channel called How to Make the Best Talking Head Videos. That one will help you the most. There's also another one Dave did on storytelling, which I think you'll find helpful too. So apart from questions based around my current hair, which is getting cut on the 4th of July, I'm very much looking forward to it. Is there anyone else in the room right now who'd like to throw me a question? Maybe Dave could throw me a question whilst we wait for actual questions to come in. Also realised that I've left this on upstairs, so one of these viewers is actually my computer, so there's not 8 people watching. But it's a good experiment. It's good to put yourself on the edge sometimes and try things that make you uncomfortable. Is your mum cutting your hair? That's a very good question. That's a very good question. My mum isn't cutting my hair because I'd let her if I could. It's becoming a bit of a nightmare. It's also very hot at the moment, so I've just been exercising too, which is now. What's the best shopper's pivot in a video we've done, and what is a shopper's pivot? Thanks, Dave. So basically, a shopper's pivot is, as I mentioned before, a way of starting a video that kind of hooks people. It's also known as a pattern interrupt. It's a technique that people use in writing all the time. Happens in films all the time. Often when you're watching a film, you don't really know what's going on for the first 2 minutes, and then suddenly you're like, it all makes sense. But it intrigues you and pulls you in, and you can get them into videos in different ways. So I mentioned this earlier, via metaphors. So coming up with a creative metaphor that kind of uses, let's say baking again as an example, something that everyone can relate to unpack a complex issue you may be about to do a video on, so that everyone can understand it in a term like baking, or something they're used to that won't confuse them, like me, confusing myself right now. Otherwise, you can use things like shock stats, things that make people go, I didn't know that. You could start jumping in there straight away with a story. And I think the best shopper's pivot ever, I'm not sure. We've done quite a few. What do you think, Dave? What do you think the best shopper's pivot is? How did you get into where you are now? It was a hobby, making video to start off with. I used to own a lawn care company, which has nothing to do with this, which I sold 6 or 7 years ago now. And then I just decided I liked making videos as a hobby, and I thought, how hard can it be? And just bought the kit, and now I'm here. Making videos for a living. But no, I bumped into Dave at a networking event. He was from Australia, but he's a Kiwi. He'd been living in Australia. And yeah, he was kind of competition, and we basically started throwing business people in front of a camera at networking events and trying to make their dull content more interesting. It's kind of the question we had earlier about how to make things more interesting. That's what we sort of started specializing in. It was getting people to come outside of their comfort zone to make videos that people would actually want to watch around topics that weren't necessarily that exciting. And we did that for a while. And then, yeah, we just formed the company with we were five officially in the start of June. And that's it. We've done about, I think, 10,000 videos now. 1,000 of them are us clowning around and trying things. That's a good question. What should you do if you're ugly? Will people watch us? Well, I've been getting away with it for years. So what you tend to find is there's not actually that many good looking people presenting videos anymore online. I mean, let's look at Gary V, for example. No offense, Gary, not that you're watching this, but he's not the best looking guy. He's still managed to build a massive following. And really, I think you think about your content first. And if you really believe you're ugly, distract them with the best quality content you can possibly produce. Because the moment you start presenting with confidence and the information's great, even if you look like the Elephant Man, people might suddenly forget. I do personally believe that people will give anyone a chance. I really don't think that looks plays a big part. It helps a ton if you're very good looking, but I also don't think it holds you back as much as you might think. And it should be something that, no one likes watching themselves to start off with. They hate the sound of their voice. So once you've thrown yourself in there and you've been doing it for a while, you end up with lockdown hair and don't really care. So you just go on camera. And it got to the stage where me and Dave were sort of going on camera without ironing our shirts or doing our hair. It was awful. We had to stop doing that because we just stopped caring what people thought and focused purely on the content. Okay, so next question, as Dave is manning the comments. Is it good to talk about many topics because there will be more people? No, is the answer. So you can talk about different topics within a certain niche, but let's say, for example, you make content on playing the guitar or reviewing guitars, or you're a guitar specialist. If you go in as a new channel and a new creator just making content about guitars, and you're doing Fender and Gibson and then lessons and all sorts, you're gonna just sort of blend in. You need to become known for something. So we always say it's about building a very small tribe, a dedicated following of people that value you and will tell other people about you, rather than trying to build this epic following to start off with. And you could do that by becoming the Gibson guy. He just did vlogs on different Gibson makes and how to play a Gibson, how to tune it and how to service one, and all these different things. so that eventually became known for something. So you can kind of niche down, and then as you get larger, and you see a lot of vloggers do this as well, they start off on one topic. PewDiePie was gaming, and he still is, but he'll just go off on anything because his following's so big. And you can kind of do that when you've got a following who actually kind of care about you. But if you're small like us and no one cares about you, then you've got to stick to a topic, which is why we kind of on our channel stuck to YouTube to start. Really, we should have just gone about video marketing or marketing in general because it's a broader topic, but it's too broad. We wanted to start with something in particular, so YouTube seemed like the right place. How do you do keyword research for YouTube? Is it just using TubeBuddy? For me, mainly, so what I tend to do is I start off with Google Trends. If I'm looking for something that is on an upward trend, so for example, TikTok content now is on a massive upward trend. If you type that into Google Trends, you'll see this graph that's just going up and up and up. So I'll look and I'll go, oh, is search interest increasing in this topic or decreasing? And then if I think it's increasing, or if it's just staying the same forever and it looks like it's going to be something that's evergreen, I move on to TubeBuddy and I'll start doing research on there for particular terms. You can also do the same kind of search on Google. Now, Google and YouTube are, although they're related, different things rank content on Google than would rank on YouTube. So you can rank videos on Google quite easily, but the video that sits number one of Google's video search won't necessarily be number one in TubeBuddy because Google's down to backlinks, kind of similar to the websites, whereas YouTube's all down to watch time and so on. So you can use tools like Ubersuggest. If you've got any keyword research tools of part of your business, play around with them and have a look, because for a lot of people getting views, in fact, I looked at our channel earlier, we're still getting more views from Google overall than we are on YouTube. So we're pulling a lot of traffic from there. So have a look at Google, have a look at YouTube, have a look at TubeBuddy, sorry, and have a look at Google Trends. And those three together are very powerful. How can we get the first subscriber? We don't have any and nobody watches our videos. The first subscriber, well, it could be anyone really. People say ask your friends, ask your family, but unless you're building an entertainment channel they might actually watch, I'd say don't ask them at all. Reach out to people at work or people who you know have an interest within your content's niche and just ask them if they check it out and if they'd subscribe. You kind of want your subscribers to want to come back though. So, trying to get subscribers who aren't going to keep watching or be interested in anything is pointless. You might as well have none. So your first one's going to be tough. I'm sure if you want to get 10 straight away, you can get your mates to come in and start watching your content. But if they're anything like mine, they'll have absolutely no interest in helping you or watching your videos. Dave, are you the other person who makes presents to the video? Yeah, Dave is the other person. So Dave does a lot of content on producing videos and writing as well. So he has a slightly different setup to me. This is currently my home because of lockdown. I'll be back in a studio at some point. But yeah, Dave is the other person. So thanks for those questions from InSyncerator. That was very, very, very good questions there. I hope they were helpful. There's a few other people watching. If there's anything else that you might find useful, then feel free to ask. So here's another question. Is it good to make content in English, although we're not good at it? So whatever your native tongue is, it might be worth starting in that, because the English, a lot of the English channels are going to be very competitive, and YouTube's very competitive, especially in Australia, America, England, India, the Philippines. You might find there's quite a big opportunity in your country as people start to come in and YouTube grows in that country. You might find there's less competition. So maybe have a crack at doing it in your native tongue first. Get used to making videos, and then once you've got the process down and you find that the whole experience easier, then maybe start tackling English. But it depends where you're from there, really. So this would be the point where you'd have a convenient commercial break usually. But this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to try this. So did a vlog a while ago about why you should never ever do a live unprepared and just answer questions, but Rob did a great job of convincing me otherwise. But we wanted to turn it into a series on live content because it's becoming something that's so much, has so much more interest since lockdown. So I thought I should probably try it, and instead of writing it off actually experience it for myself. And it's fine, as long as people answer questions. I think what I'd recommend is theming each live you do like this, so a themed question and answer. So you might do, okay, today's theme is going to be promoting YouTube videos on social media. And that might help. I'd also recommend sending the live stream to your entire email list, because if you don't do that, you get less people turn up, and we have an email list that we've been marketing to for years. So it's probably our largest distribution bit I forgot to do. Still, I'm going to try it next week, and the plan was to do this every Tuesday for a month. If there's no other questions coming in, I'm probably going to cut it short. I feel like 20 minutes was plenty. So I'll give a couple of seconds for any more questions to come in. There is a slight lag. But otherwise, I'm just going to leave this up on the channel. And if you found it not that bad, hit like. If you found it okay, hit subscribe. There's a question from someone called Dave Folks. Is it possible to use a teleprompter on live? Yes, it is. I'm not using one. You can get a teleprompter on the front of your camera, which you can put your phone into, and you can get an app on it that when you talk, it moves at the same speed you're talking. Now, I don't tend to use them for my own videos. I know Dave does, and he's found them quite helpful. He's a different teleprompting app. But you could sit here and present, but I also don't feel like it's quite what lives are about. There needs to be an element of, oh, anything could happen. It's what made live TV so great in the 90s, like The Big Breakfast. One of the greatest shows ever. So yeah, you could easily do this. You could easily do this live, but I think really you want to be doing lives interviewing other people. So we're going to be asking Rob on, who challenged me to do this soon, because he does so many lives for TubeBuddy and his own channel. He's got some great advice. And yeah, so interviewing people, that's one great use for it. And also just question and answers. Hopefully this has been not too bad. So we've got a few more minutes and then I'll sign off. And then I'm going to come back next week a little bit more prepared with what I've learned from this live stream. Okay. No new questions. I'm going to sign off. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the sunshine. I'm going to go and have a coffee. Oh, sorry, one more question just fired in. I was about to leave. What does live do to your channel? It's a very good question. A lot. If you're trying to get 1,000 subscribers and you need 4,000 hours watch time, go live. You only need 10 people to sit in on a live for an hour to build your watch time incredibly fast, which is a channel I've been working on for the last 2 months that got monetized within 2 months, basically doing lives and uploading slightly longer teaching classes. The watch time they've got is just so much more, it's incredible to see how quickly that's grown just from doing live. So if you're after ads, then yeah, it will help grow your channel. Ahmed, we've got some videos about how to film. I can comment below afterwards, and I'll send you the links to them. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off now. Have a lovely evening. I'll be manning the comments for a little bit longer after this video stops.